Hey guys, it's Brett here from Plum Property, and I wanted to give you an overview of the upcoming seller's disclosure statement, which is coming into effect from the 1st of August 2025. Now, this statement is something that must be given to the buyer before they sign the contract. And we've been wanting a copy of this for many months since it was announced last year that this was coming into effect. So finally, we got a copy of it, and I'm going to be very upfront. There is a lot of duplication going on in the seller's disclosure statement into the contract of sale, which, in my opinion, is quite unnecessary. But we'll go through it step by step so you can see everything in here. But as we go into the seller's disclosure statement, as you can see, it's a warning to the buyer. Statement contains important legal and other information about the property offered for sale. You should read it, do your searches, normal disclosures. Now, the Queensland government loves giving a warning statement, as us in real estate can attest. Now, the next warning is you must be given this statement before you sign the contract for the sale of the property. The operative word there being must. This has to happen. You cannot engage in the actual sale of the property without giving them a statement. And if you do, the buyer has the ability to be able to terminate the contract up to the day of settlement, including if you have any incorrect information in this. Now, the statement does not include information about flooding or other natural hazards like fire, structural soundness surrounding a building or pest infestation, current or historical use of the property, current or past building or development approvals for the property, limits imposed by laws, services that may be connected to the property, and the presence of asbestos. So again, it says buyers should do their own searches. But the reason for this statement is that the old rule of caveat emptor or buyer beware or do your searches is sort of being phased out towards a more disclosure-ridden world, which is very strange to have this statement here when the contract is there and has, I'll be upfront, 90% of the information already in it. So, but let's go through it, shall we? Now, part one, seller and property details. So yes, seller's details go in there, the property address, lot and plan description. Is it part of a body corporate or not? Now, if you think that seems strange to have on there, of course it is. We've already got the seller's details on the contract. Further down, we've got the property details, and depending on if it's a house or an apartment or a townhouse, you've got the relevant contract. Whether it's a residential lots in a community title scheme or a house and residential land, it's already there. But we'll continue. Part two, title details, encumbrances, and residential tenancies or rooming accommodation agreement. The seller gives or has given the buyer the following, a title search. Now, best practice says that we should attach a title to the contract, and at Plum Property, we attach the title to every single contract that we do because it outlines a lot of the information for the property. Secondly, a copy of the plan or survey registered for the property. So what it means is that you'll have to get a survey plan for the house. If it's an apartment, the community management statement will have that in there. So that has to be given. But again, that should be part of the contract, should it not? Now, registered encumbrances or unregistered encumbrances. If we go into the contract itself, matters affecting the property is where title encumbrances are listed. So we've got this form here which has this information about registered or unregistered encumbrances or statutory encumbrances, which are already here. So why do we need to do this part again? That doesn't make sense to me. But because we have to do it, this is what you have to provide. So your solicitor, or there are search companies that are being developed at the moment who'll be able to do these searches and provide all the information for you. But so this is what you have to do, like easements, statutory covenants, leases, or mortgages that are on the property have to be listed. Now, secondly, the residential tenancy or rooming agreement. So, is it subject to a tenancy? Now, we go to the contract again. It has this big section already related to the tenant, outlining, has it been tenanted in the last 12 months? When was the last rental increase and the details? So again, this section should not be needed because it's already in the contract. Now, we continue. Part three, land use, planning and environment. Now, zoning. Zoning could be very simple, added into the contract in this space just under here, where it says local government, present use. You could easily put in a box in here for zoning. Now, are there any transport proposals, resumptions, contamination, environmental protection? This already is in the contract. It's also in the special conditions of the contract, or the standard conditions of the REIQ contract, in which it outlines, hey, Are there any transport proposals? These should be disclosed already in the contract to people. Trees, we go into the contract again. Neighbourhood disputes, Dividing Fences and Trees Act of 2011. This is already in here. Heritage, is the property affected by heritage? Could this not simply be a simple tick box saying yes? Now, flooding. It says, hey, you should do your search on flooding. Here's some checks and things like that. And as many of us know, those sites aren't that accurate when it comes to flooding information. So the buyer should be able to do their searches. Vegetation, habitats, and protected plants. Again, you can search. The buyer is told that they can search for their relevant government agency. But we'll continue on. Part 4, building and structures. So this does not warrant the structural soundness of the structure. It's just talking about what's on the property. So swimming pools. Now, is there a pool? Yes. We go over to the contract again. Is there a pool? Yes. So again, we're duplicating the information that is already in the contract for a disclosure statement, which the buyer is going to sign anyway. Isn't the contract the actual disclosure statement outlining all of this information? And why is a separate form necessary to disclose this to buyers? Because the contract is the critical part. And if this information is not on the contract, then the buyer should have grounds to be able to terminate. That makes more sense than having a form where they must sign it before signing the contract, outlining the same information that is already in the contract. But we'll continue. Unlicensed building works under owner building permit. This has to be disclosed on the title where it will say it was under an owner builder. Notices and orders. If there are any notices or orders on the property or anything to do with the property, it can be there. However, there's this beautiful spot in here which is massively blank. Could they not use this area, put this information over here to give that disclosure? Doesn't that make more sense? Asbestos, it doesn't say whether the property has asbestos or not. It just gives some information about when asbestos was used, being properties built before 1990, and then ACM was being used up to the 2000s. And if it's a building, if it's an apartment block, you might find that there's going to be a sign saying this building contains ACM, asbestos containing material. But again, it doesn't say, is there asbestos or not? It's just saying, check, which seems like a bit of a onerous thing to do because, you know what? You have to go and get it tested. You got many different levels of asbestos and things like that. Many people think asbestos might be masonite. You just never know. So that seems a bit onerous. Now we continue on. Part 5, rates and services. So we have to disclose what the rates are of the property. Now you have to disclose what the rates and charges are without any discount. So if you're a pensioner, if you're a senior, you'll pay a different rate amount to what an owner-occupier will or what an investor will. Now, doesn't it make sense to then have these rates information up here, which just says rates? And you can insert the figure into there. And again, water. You have to disclose what the water amount is. What was the last quarter's water amount? Now, there's a big difference between someone where there's a single person living in the property and then a family of 4 that are moving into the property. And their water charges will change dramatically. But it says that we have to disclose what the previous water amount was and the date range. Now, that personally doesn't make sense, but hey, if we have to disclose it, then would it not make more sense to include it into a simple tick box or a simple form just at the bottom of here to fill it in because it's related directly to the property? That should be something that's a simple change. Now, part 6, community management and title schemes. So we'll go over to the apartment contract. Now, it's warning. Property is part of a community title scheme. Now, people are going to know if they're buying into a body corporate scheme, a community title scheme, or things like that, because it's pretty clear. However, this is what we need to do. Now, for a contract, before the contract is signed, there should be a body corporate disclosure statement given to the buyer and signed by the buyer, which outlines all the admin fund, the sinking fund, the lot entitlements, insurance information. That's already part of the contract of sale for residential lots in a community title scheme. But this is part of our disclosure statement now that we have to do. So as we go through, it's outlining all of their bylaws and things like that. So properties included in a community title scheme, yes. Now, strange for us to have to tick that again when if we go back up here to part 1, it's already asked you that question. But we'll continue. Now, community management statement. So before the property goes up for sale, typically you'll get what's called a body corporate disclosure statement. Now, we used to get the community management statement for the contract going back about 10 years ago. That was done away with by the former government, and now it's been brought back. So this has to be provided. It's typically usually about a 30 to 40 page document which outlines the bylaws, the lot entitlements. It'll have all the outlines for the property. Everything to do with the property will be on there. It usually has the body corporate certificate, which it's asking for here. It'll have all the statutory warranties. It'll have what body corporate owns and things like that. Everything to do with the property is going to be there. So that seems, again, a bit of a waste of time when it's already going to be here. And why not make it part of the contract of sale itself? Why not add another page to the body corporate disclosure statement to make it easier for people? But we'll continue. Then what happens? Seller has to sign first. Buyer then signs, saying, by signing this disclosure statement, the buyer acknowledges receipt of this disclosure statement before entering a contract with the seller for the sale of the lot. So the biggest issue here is that, let's say we've got a DocuSign paperwork where you've got the signatures, and we go down here, and buyer signs, presses this button first to sign it, and then presses that. That could give the buyer grounds to terminate the contract, which is a big concern. So this is the disclosure statement that we do have to provide for all buyers from the 1st of August 2025, but it seems like a lot of double handling. It seems like a lot of information could simply be put into the contract of sale, outlining everything to do with the property, rather than having another piece of paper, or 7 pieces of paper outlining information that is already there. Now, for the 1st of August 2025, this comes in. For the properties that are getting ready for that time in July, you've got to have this information ready to go, because you don't want any delays when it comes up to the contract and not having this information available. Because as things start to speed up and more people need to get this information, there's going to be a delay to getting the information from the search companies, or if need be from your solicitor who may be able to do some of these searches. And we don't know the time frame of the turnaround. A normal body corporate disclosure statement is usually 2 to 3 business days. But there's a lot more information in this, which is going to have to come from government departments and things like that. And to be upfront, we don't know how long this may take to get from that search company. So if you have any questions on this, please get in touch. If you have concerns around this paperwork, get in touch with your local member of parliament to let them know that this disclosure statement does not do what it was proposed to do. And it could simply be just added into the contract, because the contract is the most critical part when it comes to the property transaction. If you have any questions on it, please get in touch. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. And any information I get on this, I will update you straight away. Thank you.